You're the test dummy, you know?
Go ahead.
Good evening, Amy. This is an opportunity for you to tell us a little bit about yourself as it relates to the general manager position at Mason Transit. I've got 3 questions. If you just take 2 or 3 minutes to answer them, and then at the end, we'll let you go and we'll get a chance to talk to the other candidates. So first, just briefly introduce yourself and your experience as it relates to the position of general manager at Mason Transit.
All right. Well, my name is Amy Asher, and I live in Castle Rock, and I've been down there in Cowlitz County since about 2005. I've had quite a bit of experience in public transit. I currently manage River Cities Transit for the city of Longview. We serve the communities of Longview and Kelso. I've been doing that for the last 6 years, and before that I was a supervisor for River Cities Transit. I'm really passionate about public transit and have really enjoyed my time there. But I think that moving on into Mason Transit is a great next step in my transit career. Prior to working at River Cities Transit, I worked for the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Council of Governments as their transportation planner. And during that time, I was able to work in a 5-county area in Southwest Washington State, working with other transportation providers in public transit, tribal transit, and nonprofit transportation providers. And that's where I really fell in love with public transit. It was a great collaborative experience, and I fell in love with the transit industry. So I've got a lot of experience in it, and I'm looking forward to this opportunity.
Thank you. Well, what makes you interested in Mason Transit?
You know, Mason Transit is it's a rural community here, and that's something that's really important to both my husband and I. We love living in rural areas, and this community has seems like it has a lot of transit support. I've heard that it's got a very supportive board and a great transit staff that knows what they're doing. They're passionate about their work, and it's been pretty steady. That's really attractive to me as coming from another transit agency. What I've seen of Mason Transit and what I know of the agency from reading online and participating at the State Transit Association is this is a rural community that has a pretty diverse opportunities in using various modes of public transit to get around. You've got the worker driver program, which is really unique, and I think is a great idea, especially given the transit driver shortages that we're having in our industry. The van pool program that you've got, the route deviations, there's a lot of ground that's covered here for a rural community. It's, I think, pretty unique and pretty special.
If I recall, you grew up somewhat in this area.
Yeah, I spent some time here in my early elementary school years. I lived out at Mason Lake. I went to Belfair Elementary, went to Grapeview Elementary, was a Gator, little cheerleader there. I loved my time here, and I came back every summer for throughout my school years and spent some time out at Lake Limerick with my aunt when she lived out there.
So this is probably the question you weren't ready to answer. You probably were ready to answer the first 2. Since you've grown up here, you know a little bit, but also you've probably studied up about the area and Mason Transit in preparation for today and tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Tell us one thing you think you know that no one else in that room knows.
Oh, goodness.
About this area.
That's a hard one. I was just talking with someone about how quickly it seems that the area is poised for change. I think in this past year we've started to see more people moving from the Seattle area into this area, realizing that they can work remotely from their vacation homes. So I feel like Mason County is probably going to be changing quite a bit in the next few years, and our transit system is going to have to change with it. I think that might be something that some may not have thought about yet.
Great. Well, Amy, thank you very much for taking the time.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Right.
Good. Good afternoon, Joe. Thanks for your interest in Mason Transit.
Yeah.
We're excited to hear you speak about your interest in the job and a little bit about your qualifications. And so the first question I have, I've got 3 or 4 questions to ask. The first question is, give us a little bit of a background about yourself, your experiences that may make you a good candidate for this position.
Well, my background, has been at the school. Has been working with people and educating children, and we have worked super hard to engage kids in learning and help them to be critical thinkers and to learn to love learning and to be lovers of reading, lovers of learning, and not just kids that can memorize answers to tests. And so we worked hard at caring for people and working to help people. Mm-hmm. When I was at the bank, we did the same thing. The bank culture was changing from a customer service to a sales culture, and what I did is combined that customer service and sales culture to where we were only selling the stuff that the customers needed, and so we were still 100% customer service, but we were also offering things that the customers needed. And so I think that is going to help me here well. I think serving people is something that I love to do, that I'm passionate about, and being able to make people's lives better it's a great mission.
Great, thank you. So what makes you interested, you've been in the banking industry, you've been in the education industry, what makes you interested in Mason Transit and the work that it does?
Well, what made me interested was the job description. So I read through the job description, and so I was like, wow, this is really interesting, it's intriguing. And so then I went to the website, I read through the website, I read through the strategic plan, and honestly, I was like, this job is for me. This is my job. So I applied for it immediately. Just believing like the attention to integrity, honesty, the wanting to. It seems like the staff wants to have a collaborative, interdependent working group, and it just seemed ideal. It just seemed everything just seemed that fit with what I did at the school and how we built teams and how we collaborated and worked together. We built, this equity where people were able to sit at the table and share what they thought and what they felt without being scared. And from talking to the board members already today, it seems like that's how the board functions. And so, it seems like it just fit. It fit so well, and it was just perfect. And so I applied, and here I am.
Great. Well, thank you. I understand you have family in this area.
Yes.
And I know in our previous communication about the position, you've done some research on the agency, you've done some research on the region, the area. Yeah. Tell us one thing that you've learned about Mason County and the Mason Transit area that you think no one else in that room knows tonight.
Oh, wow. Some that I've learned that no one else knows. No one in that room knows. Nobody in that room knows that I am 100% committed to serving people and helping make their lives better. And I am committed to working with this team. I'm committed to the collaboration, just everything that I've read on their strategic plan. It aligns with me. I feel good about it, and I don't think anyone else knows that, but now they do.
Great. Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
You bet. Great. Stefan, well, thank you for your interest in Mason Transit. We appreciate your opportunity with us tonight and tomorrow with the other candidates for the position of general manager. I've got 2 or 3 questions to ask you. Take 2 or 3 minutes to answer them, and then at the end, we'll let you get back into the gym and meet with the folks that are there tonight.
Great, thank you.
Great. So tell me, why don't you just take a little bit of time to introduce yourself, tell me a little bit about your background so that we have an understanding of how it relates to the general manager position.
Great, my name is Stephen Gardner, as you said, and I'm originally from Shelton, Washington. Really looking forward to this position. Upon graduation from Shelton High, I went to Gonzaga University, and immediately from there was commissioned in the military as a logistics officer. So have spent about 13 years in the military in supply chain and logistics. And in moving from there, I transitioned to for-profit industry and worked for a company called Dynacraft. And in that space, I was able to move forward in my career and manage over 100 people in that position. And after that, I was able to move into a supply chain role at a major truck plant and manage both inbound and outbound freight in that facility. And so a broad experience, not only locally in Washington and knowing how, to manage people and to work with people to solve problems and work forward, but also work with a large organization like the federal government and understand how budgets are managed and how daily efforts of individual people can make a positive impact in not only individual organizations, and that's why I'm hoping to rejoin the community and have that as an aspect of an opportunity of taking the role of general manager and supporting my local community with a lot of knowledge I could bring back.
So what drew you to your interest in the position at Mason Transit? What made you interested in Mason Transit?
Right, so growing up in this community, I've seen Mason Transit grow along with the community itself. So the biggest and the most drawing aspect is that growth mindset. And speaking to some of the commissioners this evening at this event and just understanding how supported Mason Transit is in the community, not only financially, but also prior to COVID impacts, the ridership increasing and knowing that there's an opportunity here. And I consider transportation a very important aspect of the community, not too much different than public safety or public works. Mm-hmm. And ensuring that people have an opportunity to move, and be provided a service in the community is very important to me.
You mentioned earlier that you grew up in this area. This last question, tell us something in your research of the community or growing up in this community, tell us something you think no one else in that room knows about either Mason County, Shelton, this area.
As far as my experience and being outside of the community for near a decade and moving out, and I've traveled worldwide, I think a hidden secret for Mason County specifically is not only the waterways that we have, the lakes and the trails and the hiking, but also the ability to come back and just have good conversations with people as we're walking by. I think a biggest piece in moving up and being in different counties in this region is being able to walk by somebody in a mask and still making eye contact and saying hello. So that's a big impact to me, and I'm looking forward to re-entering that space.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll let you join your rest of your colleagues and go back to the gym and meet with folks.
Yep, appreciate your time.
You bet.